Well, thanks for joining us, Steve. I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thanks. Sure thing.
So we can just jump right into it. When you were working on this book, was it strange going through all those old memories?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's taken about 15 years to write this because I've been doing a lot of other things like music and book shows, sort of albums, and I got to the point where I was saying to my wife, maybe a paragraph a day will be the way to go forward. And of course it never worked out like that. Whenever you think you're going to work to minimum. So it got crammed into set periods, and most of it was done and dusted before we did the last American tour, which was cut short halfway through because everything closed down, and we got the flight back to Philadelphia, or from Philadelphia to London.
Right.
But it's taken quite a long time, and going through those memories it's a major commitment doing that.
Did things come up that you had to run by your partners or people from your past, or was it just like a stream of consciousness kind of thing, or flowing?
No. I did run ideas past my wife, Jo, and I didn't run anything by anyone else, although maybe one or two friends, got to read it, and they said, maybe you could change this, or maybe you could think more deeply about such and such. And so there was input from others, one or two whose opinion I value, and I wanted to make sure there were enough anecdotes in it as well, because the chronology, it's very tempting to talk about things chronologically, but then there are standout moments, and as many as I could remember that weren't just too musical, here's another gig, and wasn't that fantastic, etc. I didn't want to have a yawning audience, so I guess the things that were important to me were said in this book.
Do you have any moments when you're writing the book that kind of brought you to tears, or even brought you to extreme happiness?
Well, I probably talked about those moments in the book. Immigrating to Canada when I was a 7-year-old, which our family did. The last time I was in Vancouver, or the time before that, I remember visiting the old family home, and it was just around the corner, literally from Jericho Beach. And I was with my wife, and I know that it has affected my parents so deeply, and I was so taken with Canada as a kid. That was really very, very emotional for me. So I am talking about emotional things in there.
I can relate to that being emotional. That's my hometown.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Well, it's a great hometown.
Absolutely. And Jericho Beach is beautiful. So when did you live in Canada?
I lived in Canada in 1957. I went to school there. And it was a big wrench going back to the old country, going back to England. And it took me a long time psychologically to adjust. That was tricky. It wasn't easy going back to being a kid in Pimlico in London in the late 1950s.
Right.
Kind of screwed me up.
Chris?
I'm sorry, you were just talking about Vancouver, and suddenly I'm sitting on Jericho Beach with my dog.
Really? Isn't that funny? Well, now that is synchronicity for you.
Yeah.
It's the amazing beach.
I was actually just looking at an old video from there, because I live in the greater DC area now, and then suddenly I was like, in my mind, it just transported me back. So now I'm really going to have to dive into this book, because if you're doing that just in this conversation, I can't even imagine what the book is going to do when I read it.
Right. Well, I hope it works for you. I mean, it was heartfelt doing it. I think I've been very lucky in life in so many ways. But there are moments of great disgrace, and I like to think I've addressed those as well. So, life hasn't always been perfect. I haven't always been perfect to match it. But it's, yeah, I'll get another.
In the book, you go over what it was like having Peter Gabriel leave the band and having Phil Collins take over vocals, and was there any struggles with that? Or I know maybe you can't give it away because it's in the book, but you cover that aspect of that.
Yeah, I think that knowing that Pete was going to leave whilst we were touring the Landmark down on Broadway was a hard thing to face because he really was the guy who got me into the band, and there was a lot of affection between us with everybody during Landmark down on Broadway, but knowing that he was going to go, I was very keen for Phil to take over on lead vocals because I knew he had a great voice, and he'd already sung on my first album, and he'd already, I think the first thing I ever wrote for Genesis was a song that we did together, and he was the lead singer on it. So I was firmly behind the idea of him becoming the lead singer, and there was some resistance within the ranks. People weren't keen on him doing that, becoming a singing drummer.
Right.
And then once we got that sorted out, of course, he made a great front man, and Genesis was very lucky to have two very entertaining guys out front, very different to each other, but with similar enough voices that I think they were both very good mimics. And quite a lot of what Phil inherited when he first became the lead singer was singing material that Peter had done. So no easy job for him. I think they were big shoes to fill.
Now, do you and Phil have a connection because of the Vancouver connection? Because I know he has a son in Vancouver. Is that like when you met him? I don't know if that connection to Vancouver existed at that point.
He re-met somebody who'd been an early childhood sweetheart of his, and I remember I was in Vancouver at the end of one tour with my first wife, and I spent a bit of time with him and his first wife, Andy, and she seemed very nice. We got on very well, and the Vancouver connection, of course, was so many years later. Being a 7-year-old and then being a 23-year-old in Vancouver it's very different. But
right.
I just wasn't sure if there was a connection there beforehand or if that came afterwards, or.
Well, it all seemed to have cropped up, and I think it was important for Phil. It was certainly important for me as a kid, and I love being there. I mean, it is wonderful.
Yeah, so I have a quick question. Well, I know you've obviously been in this business for a really long time. Was it hard to determine which memories and which part of the history was going to make the book? Because I imagine you've got so much history.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there. Memory is selective. Every now and again, something will get thrown up, and you think, that would have been nice to have included in the book. But it's fleeting impressions. Whereas there are certain things that present themselves time after time, and so those are memories that don't go away, milestones. So I've tried to include those. The book reflects a life. It holds up a mirror to life. It can't be the life itself. Memory has to select the most important things or the most moving things, the things that have characterized me, things that have been character forming.
Right.
And I've tried to be honest. I don't suggest anyone lives their life like me if they want to sound like me. I'm sure there's a shorter route to do it. I'm a self-taught musician. If anyone wants to learn to play serious classical guitar, I would say if you can face doing the lessons, then that's great.
Right.
For me personally, music was always a symbol of freedom. It wasn't something that I was forced to do as a kid. So I've been self-taught. Who knows? Things may have been quicker if I'd have been a trained musician, but then I think I probably wouldn't have written the things that I've written. I may not have gotten involved with Genesis. I grew up listening to blues and baroque and Paul Butterfield. I mean, you might think they're very different kinds of music, but it's player-based music.
Right.
Really has been a huge influence on me, but then I love singers as well, and if I could have sung like Roy Orbison or Richie Havens, my late great pal, perhaps there would be less guitar licks. Maybe the guitar playing might have been a tad more rudimentary, and the voice would have taken over. I do envy singers for that. But I'm pleased with the way life's worked out for me. I've been a cross between all sorts of things, lots of different kinds of music.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever imagine you'd still be doing this so many years later?
No, I did, but funnily enough, when I was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with most of the other guys in Genesis, I gave a short speech, and I said I noticed that two great guitarists passed at the age of 94. One was Andre Segovia, and the other one was Les Paul. And of course, I'm still playing Les Paul's guitar.
Right.
Met Les Paul, didn't meet Andre Segovia, but saw him in concert once, and the fact that they were both gigging up to the last minute seems really an extraordinary thing. So if you're saying, did I think that at the age of 17 I'd still be doing it when I'd be 70? It's a whole different ballgame. You're just hoping to be able to make a noise for a living.
Yeah.
And then the idea of extending that throughout a lifetime, and here's me thinking, well, I want to be able to play live at least until I'm 94.
Right.
I had an uncle who lived until he was 108.
Wow.
I'm hoping to inherit some of those genes. On my mother's side, they're very long livers, and my mother's 90. And so I figure that maybe I'll still be doing rock and roll when I'm that age. That'd be something, wouldn't it?
That'd be wonderful. Yeah.
I would have outlived the audience, is that? Yeah, this old guy, I've heard he's okay. But I think he's still here.
Chris, you got anything?
I don't have any more questions for you, Steve. I really, really appreciate you sharing your stories with us today. And
thank you.
The only other thing I have is, where can people get the book?
Where can people get the book? That's a very good question, isn't it? It's going to be out July 24th. I don't know if there's any bookstores that are open. I don't know where people can buy things. I don't know where people can buy records. I don't know where people can buy films. Or, I just anything get delivered to your door. Either that or I guess Amazon will probably do it. But,
right.
Maybe they'll only do it if there's enough orders. I have no idea where you'll get hold of it, but it's just possible you can probably pre-order stuff from our web store, so you can get details from my website. So it is possible to buy it from me, from Sandbag, which is our web store. We share that facility with a number of other acts.
Okay.
And that's Hackett. And that's HackettSongs.com.
Yeah, HackettSongs.com should point you in the right direction, yeah.
Awesome.
But in terms of saying, can you get it in your hometown? I don't know about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know anymore either.
Those crazy times.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for all your contributions to music over the years. It's been amazing.
Well, thank you very much. Nice talking to you both.
Be well, my friend.
You too.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Ever wonder what a punch from Elton John feels like?
Or how you'd cope with having turned down the chance to be in Nirvana?
Or what signal Keith Richards gives when he wants you to get the hell out of his hotel room?
Fans of Too Much Effing Perspective don't have to wonder, because they've heard these exact stories and a jillion others on our podcast. I'm Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead.
And I'm musician and comedy writer Alan Keller. On the TMEP show, we get guests like Nancy Wilson from Heart, Jeremiah Freites from the Lumineers, and Modern Family's Julie Bowen to tell us things they may have only shared with their therapist, clergy, or a TMZ stringer.
So join us on Too Much Effing Perspective. That's EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.